Self-confidence is not an exclusive privilege reserved for a special few. It's a skill, it's a mindset, and a journey that anyone can make happen, regardless of their background, age, or past experiences. What sets successful people apart is not some elusive magic, but a series of deliberate choices and actions. They understand that self confidence is not a fixed trait, but a dynamic force, one that can be cultivated, nurtured, and amplified. They've discovered that building self confidence is not about pretending to be someone else or masking insecurities or being fake. It's about embracing your unique strengths, understanding your inner dialogue, and challenging the self doubt that is trying so desperately to hold you back from the life that you want. Today, you will learn exactly how to do this for yourself. What up, my people, my posse, my fellow crazies? It's your host, Tiffany Carter, and this is the show that is going to help you grow your business, your bank account, that big, beautiful brain of yours, your abundance, your relationships, and everything in between. This series is popping, man. Rich people's best kept secrets. We're going down the self confidence, self doubt path today. So many people assume, and I used to be one of those, where it's like, well, someone who is this successful, has this much notoriety, has this much cash in the bank, has a big business. Even people who I looked at were like, God, they have a big personality, and there's a lot of people that gravitate to them. I always was like, they just have a lot more confidence than me. And I know people think that about me, which makes me laugh to this day because it just is proof that we have no fucking idea what the reality is of someone unless they share it. And most people don't share the shit, which is why I created an entire show around sharing all of it, because it can make people feel like I can't have a version of what Tiffany has unless I'm all these things that I'm assuming she is. Well, for one, I used to have no self worth. I'm talking none. I was very good at putting on a front. I don't think I was being fake. I'm going to share what I did. So I was sexually abused heavily and pimped out from the ages of 11 to 21 years old. I was raised by a narcissist. Nothing was ever good enough. I never knew what to expect. I had all sorts of stuff, as you could imagine. But I watched other people who presented themselves with confidence. One, actually, some of you might know who she is, Deborah Norville. I need to have her on the show. She is the longtime host of Inside Edition. And she came to speak at my middle school when I was 13. And she pulled up in a limo, and everyone was so excited. And I remember when she was on the stage speaking to all the kids, it wasn't the kids' attention that was necessarily captivated and interested me. It was all of the adults were hanging on her every word. I was so mesmerized by her. And I studied what she did that seemed so competent, right? She stood up straight. She projected her voice. She held herself in a certain way. She spoke and enunced, which is funny because I say a lot of words wrong. It's not enunced, it's like enunciated. So just so you know, you don't have to say things perfectly, but it's not lost on me that I can't pronounce a word that's about pronouncing words. What are you going to do? This is what you get, folks, by being here on this show with me. By the way, if you are wanting to actually watch the show while listening to it and then type along in comments during the episodes, go to Project Me TV. That's where all this is going down. We're going to be enhancing that channel and doing a lot more fun stuff on there, but make sure you subscribe because there's stuff that, you want to see and you can't unsee when you're just listening to the show. So I practiced watching that and I mimicked it. And you know how they say fake it till you make it? Some of that annoys me because I'm not good at being fake. I mean, I've definitely tried. Like, you want to hear my fake voice? Oh my God, that's so nice. Thank you so much. I just can't do it. I don't have the tone of voice. I'm not good at it. And I'm assuming many of you are not good at it either, or you wouldn't be listening. So I'm not telling you to be fake or put on some persona, but there is something to be said by mimicking some of those qualities in people that you really admire, that make you feel captivated. So I held myself in a posturing of confidence, and I did my best to speak confidently and really developed my listening skills. And I even noticed the proximity in which these people would stand, right? And how they're nonverbals, right? They wouldn't cross their arms, they wouldn't have their head held down. And when you start embodying a version of yourself that you want to be, but you're not that yet there, it really does work. So that's the first thing is I want you to embody who you want to be. It's not being fake. You're working towards it. And you're also not rejecting who you currently are. And that's really important for me to say. It's totally understandable why I had no self worth, why I felt like I was a piece of shit. Because when you're abused and you're told that, and people are constantly manipulating you, and you feel so different from everyone else. And I was heavily bullied in middle school on top of it. It's understandable. So have grace and compassion for yourself, but let's work towards being this, so to speak, new and improved version of yourself and work towards that confidence. What does that confident version of you look like? How does he or she hold themselves? How does he or she stand? How does he or she speak? What types of things does he or she say? And start embodying it. And pretty soon, those things start becoming natural, familiar, and normal to you. And it really does make you feel more comfortable. Like, I'm sure you've heard the piece of advice of like, as someone who's medicated for depression. So, shout out Wellbutrin, been on it a long time, telling you. I'm all about natural remedies, but some of us we need the big, the big dogs. Okay. And I was given the advice of look in the mirror and smile, or just smile. And when you go by people, even if it's forced, force yourself to smile and say hello. And it felt so awkward and so fake and so weird, but it actually does work. They even have things called like laughing yoga, where they like get you into a state of laughter in yoga. And it does really work. And I'm going to give you today several of like the main things I've done that I've noticed and have proven to have worked for me. Because if it worked for me, there's no way some of these can't work for you. Because I was in the depths of despair. And this has worked with many clients I've worked with. I've worked with over 150,000 people worldwide from all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of trauma, all sorts of uh just mental noise, feeling like a fraud. If people only knew, who the hell would buy from me? I don't even know what I'm really doing. I want you to hear this from me. Everyone has this kind of stuff. And if there is anyone who says, oh, I've never struggled with any form of confidence or self-doubt or insecurities, you need to run very far away from this person. That is someone who's either has no humility and is not willing to be humble, or they're completely delusional. And I'm absolutely concerned. Or they're so wickedly insecure that they can't even admit their insecurities. So I want you to paint a picture. You can type along in comments on YouTube if that helps you. I know for me, it helps me integrate some of these lessons. But even visualize, like, what does that version of you wear? So this goes with truly my favorite go-to, and I use it to this day. And it is really role playing with yourself. Just go with me on this. I told you, none of these rich people best kept secrets are going to be basic. I create a a higher level version of myself. So we all have our higher self, and then we have like that ego self. The ego's rooted in fear. The ego's riddled with self-doubt. The ego was rooted in all that mental chatter and scarcity. Then you have the higher self, your true self. That's the self that's closest to the universe. That's your abundant self. That's your self that's close. That's your God. That's your God-driven divine path self. I named her. I take action based on what my higher self would do versus my ego self. So I'll call her, and you can change the name at any time. Sometimes I refer to her as like Boss Move Tiff. Like, what would Boss Move Tiff do? What this does is it helps separate the ego from our true selves. We get this all mishmashed and intertwined and confused. We start thinking, especially if you've been operating out of this ego for so long, which most of you have, we start thinking that's who we are. That's not who you are. Some people even say, like, that shit's the devil, right? To keep you small. And some people say, right, that that's where political propaganda and marketing comes in, where they almost want you to be operating out of ego because not much happens out of that state. You end up staying stuck, or you take 3 steps forward, 5 steps back. You don't grow. A lot of toxic people, not a lot, all, they want you in that ego, beaten down, broken down state. I have a client of mine, and I have to be careful how I share the details because I'm very respectful of my client's privacy. Every fucking time, and it just happened again, so I'm irritated as hell by it for her. Every time she goes to shine, she's so talented. And her husband has built a rather successful business for themselves. She truly doesn't have to work monetarily, but she has to creatively. And she has to because she's so gifted, and because she wants to, and because this is something very important for her children to see. And on one hand, he'll seem so supportive of what she does, right? He even like built an office for her, and will verbally say all these things. But whenever we get her a gig, and we get her like $10,000 gigs, $8,000 gigs, he always does something to cause drama and get her back into fear and ego while she's in the fucking middle of it, which in turn causes her to have a whole fear response where usually her stomach's upset. She gets herself so worked up that she's sick, and then she's put back into her box. Whether it's someone in your life who used to do this to you in childhood, in a marriage, in a partnership, or you're doing it to yourself, we have to first recognize it in order to stop it and in order to detach from these people. And we have to deliberately put front and center that higher self. And what would Boss Move Tiff do? I started this back in college when I finally was freed of being out of that fucking nightmare house I was in. Oh, thank God I went to college. Thank God someone let me in. Shout out Emerson College in Boston. It's a well-known TV, film, and performing arts school. So you didn't have to have like the best grades. Thank God. My grades were actually good. It was any like standardized testing. I'm sorry, but like, can we just say this? What, who, why are there so many options? Like, when you have a creative mind and you're someone who's even like an empath, you're a deep thinker, multiple choice is fucking terrible because you're like, well, technically it could be B and D, but that's not an option. And I could see a scenario in this. It was really rough for me. I'm like, this is not going to work out. But last time I checked, I'm doing okay over here. I'm making significantly more money than many people I went to high school with. In fact, most of them who went to Ivy League schools. Thank you so much. So come up with a name for this person. When we name someone, we are what you're really signaling to the universe, to yourself, is that this is a real person. And it is. Your higher self is just as real as your ego. You've just been feeding your ego for so long, it's familiar and comfortable. We need to feed and fuel him or her, this higher self. So, boss move tip, what would she do? The ego will also do a lot of self-protection moves, and your ego's very irrational. And you're an ego when it just doesn't feel good. You're scared, you go into procrastination, you're riddled with self-doubt, you feel like you're a fraud, you then tell yourself you're confused, you don't know what you're doing. Your higher self always knows. That higher self feeling is, holy shit, I've got this. Ooh, why am I getting so emotional? I think it's because I was just around all these beautiful, beautiful people who traveled from all over to come to my 2-day in-person mastermind event. And I watched people shift out of their ego, and I watched them embrace their higher self in front of my eyes, and to see that transformation. It's truly priceless. And I can't tell you how many people from there gave beautiful testimonials written and on video saying that, like, this is worth $100,000. I can't even put a price tag on this, because even if you're only getting a glimpse for 20 minutes of what it feels like to embody your higher self, it's like you sitting in first class on an airplane for the first time. Even if you're just sitting up there for like a 1 hour flight, you're like, oh my God, I can't ever go to the back again. I never want to go to the back again. That's why I need you to be able to get in a state to try this on, because then you'll go, I'm willing, you'll be motivated and willing to do the work and the mental gymnastics and the practices that I teach in order to stay in that abundant zone as much and as long as possible, to stay connected to your higher self daily, because you don't want to go back. You don't want to go back to that middle seat by the bathroom. You don't want to go back to where you're trying to travel by bringing a carry-on and there's not going to be any overhead space back. We're not about that life, okay? Oh, it's so beautiful when this happens. Your higher self is based out of abundance, trust, and faith. And do you want to take fear-based actions or faith-based actions? Which one do you think is going to get you closer to your desired goals? Yeah, you know that answer. So give that a name. I also want you to give a name to your ego. I refer to the ego as an inner bully, because ego can be almost too big of a concept, right? So I refer to it as inner bully. My inner bully's name is Susie, and she's a biatch. Okay. And what's interesting is your inner bully, if you have had a traumatic childhood, a dysfunctional childhood, or there were significant relationships you've been in that were very toxic, you'll notice, if you really dissect it, that your inner bully has taken on the voice of that person. So my inner bully is my main critical parent, my mom. But I've even probably added on to it. I guarantee you there is no one that can be meaner to you than yourself. And so this goes to my next fun thing that you're going to do. And what I say fun is because if we don't make this kind of fun and entertaining, you're not going to keep prioritizing it. And we don't need to make this hard. Things get to be easy. We get to make more and work less. And sometimes working less means it's the feeling of ease. Technically, it might not be working less when you put it on paper, but it feels like less. It's like, for me, doing a fun workout dance class versus me running sprints and doing burpees, both take the same amount of time. Both of them take the same amount of effort, but one feels significantly more fun and easier than the other. So this is what a lot of my teachings are going to. Last 72 hours, by the way, for you to get my Make More While Working Less guided workbook course for free. So I will be selling this for $177, which is introductory pricing. You can wait and pay that, or you can leave a written Apple review of this podcast, leave your name or Instagram, TikTok handle in the review, take a screenshot of it and email it to us at support@projectmewithtiffany.com. You can swipe up. Those easy instructions are right in the show notes or in the description on YouTube. But 72 hours left. That's it. Also, 72 hours left for my Project Me Posse business coaching membership bonus sale. This is where you get my $297 content creation made easy course bundle for free when you join. I don't know if there's any new member spots left. We cap this community at an intimate size, so I can in integrity refer to it as a business group coaching membership. This is where you get live weekly trainings from me and other special guest experts, a portal of over 300 prior live trainings. You get Q&A, you get collaboration with the other members, you get a support group. It's like literally an entrepreneurship, basically support group where we speak real and straight up about the struggles and what's going on and how to work through them, plus teaching you all the things. So this is where I teach you how to go from zero to $15,000 consistent months in your business. This is for any type of business. You could have an e-commerce business. You could be someone who wants to resell products. You could be a realtor. You can be an accountant. You can be a coach. You can be a healer. You can be a beauty professional. We have all sorts of people in there. And I've been getting quite a few questions because I have a lot of male listeners of the show. 30% of the listeners of this podcast are male. I should say identify as male. And we have males and females and aliens. Okay. We probably have some animals too, because some of y'all are animals. You know what? There's someone at my beach house who put the damn toilet paper the wrong way around. I was like, you guys are animals. I literally had to stop a training because I could see out of like the guest bathroom downstairs, someone did it under. Okay. We need to have the paper over. And I'm very curious about this debate. So drop it in the comments on YouTube. You can DM me at Project Me with Tiffany on Instagram. Like, we need to discuss this. It needs to go over. Who is this animal? Is this done? Is the under a thing in other countries? I'm not here for it. I digress. So when it comes to getting this mindset of yours on point, you have to stack the odds in your favor and do things to set yourself up to keep you in check, myself included. So the posse, right? That's an excellent example. You can't give me 1 hour of your week. Just so you know, 1 hour of your day even is only 4% of your day. So you can't give me 1 hour a week almost every week. It doesn't have to be every week, but almost every week. Okay. In order to learn how to take your business from $0 to $15,000 consistent months, and in order to learn how to prioritize and keep your higher self right there front and center and manage that ego so that the comparisonitis, the imposter syndrome, the self-doubt, all that shit doesn't start pulling you back into that negative vortex where nothing happens. Because what do rich people do? We set things up so we have the support when we start slipping back in, because everyone does. This is normal. Okay. We're human beings. We all do it. And we set it up so we're proactive, we're ahead of it. I would rather you stay ahead of something, kind of like hydration. It's better to regularly be drinking water than to get to a point of dehydration and try to chase it. I want you to be ahead of it. It's actually a lot less work. Getting regular maintenance on your car, going to the dentist regularly. It's a lot less expensive. It's a lot less costly, and it's much easier to be proactive than reactive. I really want you to hear me on this. So the posse is a great place to be proactive. I have an annual option that is the absolute best price you'll ever get on it. It's incredible. Plus, you're setting the tone of I'm committing to at least a year of doing this. We also have the month to month option, but everything and the details and the student reviews and all of that are on the page, projectmewithtiffany.com/project me posse. 72 hours left on that, 72 hours left to get my uh, guided workbook course for free. And I'm not going to be doing a sale in the posse for a long time. So you want to make sure that you grab this. We all have our most common things that we slip into. It's no different than the common thoughts you have, right? Some of you might have the I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm too old. Some of you do the confusion thing. Some of you go, this is too hard. Some of you go into the money stuff. Everyone is different. One of mine, and this was identified by my therapist Janice, who has passed away sadly. Love her. Shout out in heaven to Janice. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for her. And there wasn't a term for this back then. Basically, when I go into a fear mode, when I am out of abundance and my ego and Susie are running the show, I do a lot of comparison. And I've done it my whole life. This is what I mean. Like, you have some go-to moves that zap your energy, zap your confidence, zap your motivation, zap your life force, zap your everything. And your time and your money, all of it. So I can go into, I guess, if we want to call it like imposter syndrome comparing. If I am not careful and I start doing scroll holing, oh my God, I can sit there and go, wow, this person's so far ahead of me. I'm so far behind. Wow, their podcast has a gazillion downloads, and what am I doing wrong? Something must be wrong with me, blah, 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 blah. So I've named it, and I want it to be a name that makes you laugh, because if you really think about it, it's all so ridiculous. It's really, and it's not being mean to yourself ridiculous. It's just, it's such a lie and so preposterous that we need to name it something funny. So I call it imposter syndrome hijinks. Like, it's just, I'm putting a name to my behavior. It also separates it from me. It's not me. It's not real. It's not true. It's just some hijinks going on. And so I'll catch myself up. There's my imposter syndrome hijinks. There it goes again. Okay. Like, I see you. I see what you're doing, and we're not going to do that. Like, stop it. And that's an indicator for me. I need to put the blinders on and not be randomly scrolling. It's also an indicator that I'm needing to pour more into myself, and I'm needing some nurturing, and I'm needing some extra TLC. I'm needing to reach out to one of my coaches and look at that. Do you have a coach? Do you have a therapist? Do you have a community? What have you done to set yourself up to help you manage this stuff and have trusted people to go to that get you? Because if you have no one in your life who is an entrepreneur, or at least a really successful one in the way that you want to be doing things, you don't want to be taking advice from them necessarily. That doesn't mean they don't mean well, but that's not really a good plan. You want to make sure you're hiring people and working with people or there's that resonation where you're like, I want to be where they're at, and I know that they'll get me, and therefore their advice makes sense and gets you closer to where you want to go. All right. So now let's go to one of my favorite things. And I've given you quite a few things, but like, I like playing doubt detective. It's like a doubt detective, a doubt attorney. All of you are really good at investigating things. You like the true crime. You like doing a deep dive and like searching for someone and psychoanalyzing them. I need you to do it for yourself. Investigate the source of your self-doubt and dismantle it in a court of law. Argue why it's BS. You've spent most of your life putting arguments and evidence and debating on why it is true and why you can't do it and why it won't work and why you're going to fail and all those things. How about you start building a case for yourself of why your self doubt is bullshit, why it can work, why it will happen, why you are the best equipped for it, and put that kind of energy in there. But you're going to have to actively do this and actively pursue this. It's not going to come natural. What comes natural is all the ego crap and the inner bully stuff. You actually need to get yourself to do this. This is no different than working out. I call mindset work, it's like stretching at the gym. You avoid it until you've injured yourself and you're in so much pain, and then you'll never avoid it again. You have to set yourself up so you'll follow through and do this, which is great you're listening to this show, because that helps get your mind back into this space. It helps get you back into the abundance zone. I have dropped the new Fall into Abundance guided walking meditations. That's also in the show notes in the description on YouTube. And it's in my link in bio on Instagram and at TikTok at Project Me with Tiffany. So you want to use those tools. That's why I give you free tools as well. But you want to take the shiz to the next level and stop messing around. You need to join the posse. You need to work with me privately. You got to go to another level with this stuff. Okay. Because free is great, but it only gets you so far, because it's not enough to get you to show up and follow through. Right. And some of you need more personalized and customized guidance. Let's talk about the fuck it button. And anyone who is offended by my swearing, I don't know what to tell you. They're just words, they're just a combination of letters. I really do love a good swear, and just tune it out if it's not your thing. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why we're still so bothered by swearing. It's just letters that have formed a word, just like any other word in any other language. The fuck it button. This is so random and whack, but I think a lot of you are really going to like it because you can do it anywhere and no one has to know you're doing it. It needs to be something that shocks your system, where you're like, oh, I can't press post on that. I can't go do this. I'm afraid to go apply. I don't want to go and join the posse. Should I do this? And you start getting in this whole thing. It works for procrastination too. I need you to create your own fuck it button that works for you. And you might have to try some things to see what works for you. I've literally bought a button from the dollar store where you press it and it makes a noise. There's kids' toys that have that too. I have a button. It's hysterical. I need to show it on TikTok and Instagram. I don't even remember where I got it. It's a green button. I think it has a dollar sign in it, and you press it. It's an oversized button, and you press it. And I think it says like cha-ching, or it's a cash register. That I've done that as a fuck it button. And I've done the rubber band, or like a hair tie, elastic hair tie, put it around your wrist, and you're afraid to do something, you're avoiding doing something, you need to do something. I want you to like snap it against your wrist. Like, no, it's happening. It's happening. It's happening. It's happening. You're doing it. I literally say, fuck it. I mean, if you want to say screw it, if there's another code word you want to use that really works for you, or a phrase, say that. I have a gesture that goes with it. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see it, but it's just like, fuck it. What I'm doing is I'm putting my hands fully spread out, and I'm like almost pushing away. It just comes naturally to me. I'm basically pushing away the fear, pushing away all the self-doubt, I'm pushing away Susie. I'm pushing away the ego, where I'm going, fuck it. It's happening. Everything I've done that has made me millions of dollars, that has gotten back my peace, that has claimed my serenity, that has saved my life, that has created time freedom and money freedom and lifestyle changing wealth, has all come on the other end of me saying, you know what? Fuck it. It's happening. That's another phrase I'll use for myself. And I use it with clients. It's happening. And that has another gesture to it that comes naturally for me, but I do talk a lot with my hands. It's happening. It's a it's a very clear statement. It's happening. That means I'm doing it. And then you have to do it. Because if you say it and then you don't do it, now you've ruined the whole thing. We want your nervous system, your body physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to instantly get a zing and know, okay, after we say it's happening, after we say fuck it, we go into action. And it's no different than you like training a dog, right, to do something. You say sit and they sit and they hear it enough times and you reinforce it positively with treats enough times, they know to sit. You need to do this with yourself. It absolutely works. Other ideas you can do, you can have a go-to dance move. You can, some people, I don't know if you've seen them, it's like a fidget spinner, but it's a ring. I have one of them that's pretty cool. And they flick that while saying it. Some people prefer more of a softer spiritual practice. I don't want it to be too soft though, because action requires like a shock. Some people go and take a quick cold shower, or like splash cold water on their face. I really need it to be something where it's like, it's happening. It could be a really deep breath and a loud exhale. So I want you to create your own fuck it button. The difference between what someone you see, like myself or someone else, who's a professional athlete, who's super rich, who's very far ahead in your field, who has the book, who's done the things, who's taken the risk, who's taken the business loan out of the bank, who's hired me before they have money come in. That's my favorite thing when someone says to me, well, I know I'm going to hire you, Tiffany, to work with me privately or hire you at another higher level, like your mastermind or something like that. Once I have money coming in, it's like, wait, but you actually hire me for me to show you how to have money come in. Like that's what we prioritize, is getting fresh cash into your business. Because without fresh cash coming into your business, what do we have, people? We have a jobby, a time and energy sucking hobby. We need to prioritize that fresh cash so you can reinvest back in your business. And this is how you grow it faster. This is how you build it faster. This is how you do it with ease, is by learning from someone who's done it that helps you customize and refine it so it feels good to you. And it works with your particular lifestyle and your life setup. Okay. I hope that you got a lot out of this episode and these interesting ways to go about keeping yourself in that abundance zone, keeping yourself in your higher self, redirecting back to your higher self and directing away from the ego, directing away from that inner bully. You need to at least give yourself, your higher self, equally as much attention as you've given to your inner bully for so many years, at the very least, at that starting point. Don't you think that you deserve to do that for yourself? And that's only fair and reasonable. You're not born with this stuff. Yes, some people have amazing childhoods and we're, told over and over again how great they are. But even then, people still have stuff because things happen at school, there's other relationships. It doesn't matter how low and how riddled with insecurities you are. You have the power to change this, but you have to set it up so you actually follow through and do all the things. But I promise it's all here for you. Wishing you great health, wealth, and worth as always. Love you. Remember, go leave that 5-star review so that you can get my Make More While Working Less guided workbook course. And it's the final 72 hours for both. For that and my birthday bonus sale inside my posse. Everything is in the show notes. Everything's in the description on YouTube. Make a move, people. You deserve to do this for yourself. Set yourself up so that confidence is not your barrier to having the life that you want. That's the last thing that should be the barrier.